Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the event. Today and every year on February 11, it's the International Day of Women and Girls in Science. So we took this chance and we wanted to make this event to celebrate the day, of course, and to get to know each other, to have a discussion with women in science. So the people here today, some people are physically at IMDEA Software Institute. Some of us are attending online, and the panelists are mainly professors either at IMDEA Software Institute and the UPM University. We have PhD students, and the idea is to have a discussion about our academic careers and any questions that you may have on how that looks like, how we made our choices, what struggles, what successes we had, and any other questions you may have about an academic path, even if this is being at a university, doing a PhD, doing research internships, anything that you may want to ask. And we're going to share our experiences on how we did all those things. So feel free at any point to ask questions. You can either raise your hand in Zoom if you want to physically talk, or type them in the chat. And I mean, if you're in person at IMDEA, of course, you can just actually raise your hand and Blanca will give you the microphone. And the idea is that for the first half of the meeting, each panelist will introduce themselves and kind of describe their journey so far, where they are coming from, their academic journey. And then we have some questions prepared. And then we also will ask you to make any questions. So I will be moderating this and I will keep an eye on the chat. So yeah, we can start. I will ask Clara to introduce herself, describe her academic path, and what she's doing right now, what research she's working on. Yeah, so let's go ahead. Thanks.
Thank you, Thaleia. So my name is Clara Benac, and so I'm going to start with the beginning, right? So before coming to university, before starting to study at university, I wasn't unsure of what to study. At high school, I liked very different things and not very compatible things. So I was very unsure of what to study. I liked linguistics. We studied at that time. We studied Latin. I liked that, but I also like mathematics. I like linguistics, but I didn't like history. I like mathematics, but I didn't like physics. So I was like, okay, what am I going to do? Because those things kind of were paired together. So, as I said, I was uncertain of what to study. My father actually played a big role in my decision, I have to admit. He's engineer, and he was often helping me with mathematics and with my homework, whatever, and explaining things to me. And he also introduced me to programming a little bit. So some small programs, and I did like that. So at the end, when I had to choose in the list of universities or in the list of degrees I was going to study, I had like computer science, mathematics, journalism, and Spanish philology. So it was kind of very, a list with a lot of different interests. At the end, I got into computer science. Okay, so I'm just explaining this so that I wasn't like 100% sure this is what I want to do. So I started in computer science. The first year was a disaster. I failed everything but technical drawing, and not because I was good at technical drawing, but because someone helped me with that. So I was, oh my God. At the same time, actually, I have to say that in the calculus exam, I almost passed. So I was very close to passing that course. And at that time, my mother would tell me, if you don't want to study computer science, change to any other subjects that you like. But I said, no, I really want to, I want to do this now that I'm here and I think I can do it. And so I did. And so I struggled to finish the degree. At that time, it was a 6-year degree. And yeah, it was tough. I struggled, but at the end, I finally finished. Well, actually, when I was about to finish, I was like, okay, what am I going to do next? And so I had a feeling that I was not going to like sort of the normal work of a programming of people who study computer science at the time. We was mostly programming. I wasn't sure about that. So I tried to, I actually applied for a scholarship in one of the research groups at the university, but I didn't get that scholarship. I had not, I mean, I had very normal grades, so it was a big competition. So I didn't get it. I was a bit disappointed, but on the other hand, I expected that because I knew that there were more people with better grades than me. And then I was thinking, okay, what can I do? Okay, at that time, I could also apply for an Erasmus scholarship. So I did that. I wanted to go to the UK or Ireland because of English, of course, and I didn't get there either. So I'm just explaining this so that you see that sometimes things don't come easy, okay? So I didn't get there. Again, the same problem, very few positions, very few places to go, people with better grades got there. I didn't get there. So I thought, okay, where can I go with English? Because I didn't know French, I didn't know German. I ended up in Sweden, okay? So I got this Erasmus scholarship, which was very little money, just paid for the plane ticket, and I wanted to go. I talked to my parents, and on one hand they were supportive. On the other hand, they said, "Okay, we cannot really afford to have you to pay for you in Sweden to support you in Sweden for 8 months." And I said, "Okay, don't worry, I will find a job." That was my strong point there. So I did went to Sweden. I was at Uppsala University. I did find very at the beginning there was a not real job, but just working as they had in Sweden in Uppsala. They had these student associations, and they had their own kind of cafeteria. So I was working in that cafeteria for a while, just a few months, but that was just pocket money. So I couldn't support myself with that. At the same time, I went to talk to the Erasmus coordinator at the Uppsala University. I had to do just 2 courses and what was called then the final year project, which was equivalent to a master thesis, because being a 6-year degree, actually there it was equivalent, the project I had to do to the master thesis. Okay, so they told me, right, you can do the master thesis either at the university or in industry. And I said, okay, I need a job, so please, industry. Okay, and then the Erasmus coordinator asked me, so what kind of things do you like? And I was like, I don't know, because no one had ever asked me that question. I was like, the degree was very sort of, everybody studied the same. When you applied here for something, it was like, okay, this is the list, choose whatever you like. But I have never really asked myself, what do I want to do? Or what did I like? And then he said, okay, what kind of things did you like at university, at your studies? And I said, okay, let me think. I liked logic. I liked functional programming, which was one of the courses. And he said, okay, I know the right person for you. So he introduced me to this guy at Ericsson at a research lab in Sweden, in Stockholm. And I went to talk to this guy, and he told me that he was working on analyzing programs written in a kind of functional programming language, which was called Erlang. And so I said, okay, this is wonderful, because it's the kind of things I like, functional programming, logic, mathematics, because analyzing, for him, it meant analyzing in a mathematical way. So like you can prove, he told me, okay, you can prove theorems about programs. And I'm like, what? Never heard of that. Never heard of it. So first of all, the topic was interesting. Secondly, they were going to pay me a good pay. So this is perfect for my parents and for me. And then this guy was really supportive. And so he introduced me to research to make, I know I'm talking too much maybe, but just to tell you a bit how I got there. So So I started working with him, and it was wonderful. I thought this is what I wanted to do, and we did experiments. We wrote papers. Actually, one paper of my math thesis was published in our workshop, and I thought, okay, this is the kind of thing I want to do. I love that. And so I worked with this guy for 1 year after that, and then it was the year 2000. So a big crisis came, and they were downloading the research lab, and my project was finished. And they told me, okay, would you like to work in the development department of Erlang? And I said, no, I don't want to do development. I want to do research, because I saw that I like that. As I said, this guy, Thomas Arts, was very supportive. He would come, so I would write something, and he would come, everything in red, but he would say, you did a very good job, but blah, 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 change this, change this, change this, change this. But he actually was very encouraging, and that was so important for me, because it really helped me to realize, yes, I can do this. So then I realized, okay, what is the next step? I want to do a PhD. I like research. You have to do a PhD, basically. I was offered a PhD scholarship, well, actually contract in Sweden, in KTH. But I thought, okay, I really want to go to the UK, because that's what I wanted in the first place. I couldn't get it then. And I said, okay, let me try now. Actually, having this experience at Ericsson kind of opened a lot of doors for me, because everyone would say, oh, you have been researching at an Ericsson research lab? Yes, we want you here. You must be good. Which I don't think it was exactly the case, but never mind. So I sent like 30 or 40 applications for scholarship, PhD scholarships in the UK. And I got some answers. Some people wanted me to work on their project, but actually, not only did I want to go to the UK, but I also wanted to continue my work that I have started at Ericsson, working on Erlang, formal methods, which is mathematical proofs or similar things on programs, analyzing programs like that, to see if they are correct. And so there was one guy from a university in Canterbury, in UK, who told me, okay, I'm willing to be your PhD director. I have a scholarship for you, and you can work on these things that you have already started working in at Ericsson. I said, wonderful. Went there, had an interview, and I started there. So I did my PhD at the University of Kent in Canterbury. It was a wonderful time, a lot of international PhD students, wonderful atmosphere. And in a sense, it was easy in the sense that I was not, I mean, I was not starting from zero. I had already done half of my work. It was like doing the more, a bit more in-depth work, studying a bit more in depth what I had already started. And so for those of you who are doing a PhD nowadays, the difficult thing is to finish because at the beginning of your PhD, I think that's at least my experience, you are very ambitious. You want to do wonderful things, of course. And towards the end, you have to sort of narrow a little bit your expectations and say, okay, I have to finish. I have to finish. So at the end, sometimes, of course, it's hard. I was lucky because my director of the PhD was very supportive. I was working on something that I knew and I like, and but at times, of course, you struggle sometimes in a PhD, thinking, okay, is this worthy what I'm doing, and so on. What my takeaways from my PhD, what I think I learned very well, at least that's what I think, is to be precise, to be very precise in what you write and explaining things. I think that was something which I learned in the PhD. And okay, so I finished the PhD and I was offered the director of my thesis moved to Manchester. He offered me a lectureship with him, but then at that same time, I spoke to someone in a conference and he told me they are looking for people in Madrid, for people who can teach in English. And I said, okay, this is me. I thought, okay, I have been 2 years in Sweden, 3 years in the UK. Okay, yeah, I feel like now it's time to maybe go back to Spain, especially if I have the possibility. I mean, if you don't have it, it's different. But there was this possibility of coming to Madrid at another university, at Carlos III. They had these positions for people to teach in English. So I went there, and the research group there was not on the topics I was working with. So they were a group working on artificial intelligence, but it was my chance to come to Spain. So I said, okay, no problem. I come here anyway. And actually, we managed to do some collaboration. So they were working on these multi-agent systems. So we applied our techniques for analyzing programs to these multi-agent systems. So we actually found a way to apply my research work onto this kind of new area, in a sense, for me at least. So I was there, and but I didn't get a permanent position there. And then after that, here at the UPM, which was where I studied, there was this research project with the people from Sweden, Thomas Arts, the people from Canterbury. So it was a project where I was kind of the perfect match. So I came here as a researcher to work on a research project. I was working there for a few years. There was a professor assistantship coming up, and I applied to that. I got it, and after that, I got now I am an associate, associate professor, and that's nowadays. So nowadays I teach first year students programming to first year students. I teach to third year students algorithms. We have a course on in the formal methods master, a course on applying what we call property-based testing techniques to programs. And so I teach. I am the principal investigator on a research project. I participate in other research projects, international, national, and regional. I have had one PhD student who had already defended his thesis. I have two more now on the making. I am the secretary of the department in my department, and I'm married to a Swedish guy. It was kind of the souvenir I got from Sweden. And I am the proud mother of two kids, two boys. One is 14-year-old, and one who is soon to be 9 years old. So long story, but
that was beautiful. Thank you so much. It was great. Such a long journey, and yeah, it's amazing. Great, long great. All right, let's move on with Silvia, right? So she's a PhD student, so she can tell us things from her perspective so far. Yeah.
To keep it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Now we can hear you.
My story is gonna be for sure much shorter because I'm still studying the PhD. I'm in the final years. So well, as you, I didn't know what to do when I was thinking about the university and that stuff. But in the end, I ended up choosing computer science, and I cannot really like it. I wasn't really sure about what was it about, and yeah, in the end, it was amazing. So but as I didn't know which was about computer science, I didn't know neither what to do after. So I started to talk to my other teachers and professors to know what they were doing. Like, you know, a lot of subjects, but you don't know what your teachers do. What are they researching about? So when I was really a child, I really liked researching, but I imagine researching this thing about chemistry in which you do some super cool stuff and you try things and that, yeah. But then when I thought, okay, but you can really research on computer science, is when I started to talk to these professors and so on. So I tried a bit in machine learning and that. And well, in the end, I end up talking to another professor who told me, okay, if you want to try cybersecurity, there is this huge building next to your university, which is IMDEA, and you can talk to them and see if they have open positions for an internship. So you can get to know what's really researching. And I said, okay. So in the end, I don't know why, but I kind of, maybe Juan liked me in some way. So I got to work with him and it was amazing. I really love it. I love it here because everything is super, super good. You have your small office in which you can focus, but also you can meet to other students, but not only in your topic. For instance, I'm from cybersecurity, but there are other tons of them. So yeah, being able to share your experiences and so on, I love it. So I talked again to Juan and asked him, what can I do to keep on this? And he advised me about the masters and so on. And here I am. So everything is not that amazing. You have sometimes your struggling parts, but yeah, as you can share with other people and so on, you can continue and keeping on your track. And that's it, more or less.
Great, thank you so much. Thank you. All right, let's move on with Alessandra.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, perfect.
Good. Okay, so when I heard your stories, I actually feel like a lot of common points in common, because as Clara was telling about her very beginning, so I do remember at high school, I was very confused as well. So I didn't know what to choose. And just like her, I liked so many things that were not really um, compatible. So I really loved literature. I really loved Italian literature, English literature, and then I was kind of good at math, but I was, for instance, terrible in physics. So again, like science was not a clear future direction. And anyway, somehow, and again, similar to Clara, somehow my dad had kind of an influence in this. It happened because he gave me, as a present, my first computer. He was not an engineer, but somehow he felt like this was kind of the future. And he felt like I had to learn to use that thing. And when I saw a computer, I was like, what am I doing with this? And so I was not like other students at high school who were already a lot into computers. I was kind of not really caring too much about it. But as soon as I got it, I started to by myself to play with it and kind of wanted to know more about how this box was working. And this soon basically became my reason to go on and study computer science. And again, so when I started computer science, just like Silvia said, I was not really sure that this was my thing, because I saw that I was kind of good at taking all the maths exams, but I was fighting a little bit with programming, just because compared to other guys who were already attending the course and already knew how to program at the beginning, I never had experience in that. So I had to fight a little bit. But again, I kind of managed to catch up quite fast. Actually, one thing that I should probably mention, and it's kind of sad probably, is that so in Italy there are different programs. So there is a program that is called Informatica. That is a course that comes from mathematics, and there is a similar one that is called computer science engineering, that comes from engineering. And when I went for the decision of what to study, so I knew that I was interested in computers. I felt like informatics was the better choice for me, just because the word engineering was kind of scaring me a little bit, because I thought that it was more like someone for guys. And again, I have to say, I'm sorry to say this, but I really felt like this at the back then. So I went for informatics. And as I was saying, I was not really sure about this decision, although year by year I was really liking it. And when I got towards the end, I had to do first a bachelor thesis and then a master thesis, and I was lucky enough that I kind of asked the right professor to do a bachelor thesis with, and he also offered me some projects that were kind of related to research. So I could already have a little bit of experience to what research was like already during my bachelor thesis. And I liked it. So I continued on the same project for my master thesis 1 year and a half later. And then I liked it even more. So that, that gave me the motivation to do a PhD. Although there I had to take the decision of where to do the PhD. So I'm originally Italian, and I studied in Milan. But when it came to the decision of where to do the PhD, I was not really sure that I wanted to do it in Italy, in Milan. And I had the opportunity to do it in Switzerland. And when I went there to visit the university, I immediately had the feeling that this is where I wanted to be, mostly because I could see a very international environment, people from really all over the world, and I really liked that atmosphere. So then I did the PhD there. Just as Silvia said, it's not like all positive. I mean, it's like lots of ups and downs during the PhD. I'm sure that all the ones here who do the PhD know that. But somehow I managed to go over the 2 or 3 moments when I ran into my advisor's office saying, "Oh no, it's too frustrating. I'm quitting." So I managed to go over that, and then I still saw the positive points of doing research. So I continued. Then from Switzerland, I moved to Germany to do a postdoc in a university. And while there, I had actually a very good opportunity to visit Google for a research project. So I went to the US for a few months, and then finally I could get a position here at IMDEA Software. So this is more or less my story.
Great. Thank you for sharing this. It was very nice to hear. Cool. I believe Niki is not around yet. So then I'm gonna go and I'm gonna share my story. So hi, my name is Thaleia Doudali. Originally, I come from Greece. I grew up in Greece. And I think my journey is a little bit different in the sense that my family really influenced some of my decisions, because I grew up with 2 older brothers. So they were into computers from a very young age. So as a result, I was around computers from a very young age. And we always had like the most recent version of computers. Of course, back then they used to look much bigger, and then they started becoming much smaller in size. But they were fascinated with computers, and I think they passed on this excitement to me. So then when they went to college, they went and they studied computer science and electrical engineering. We have this school in Athens that combines electrical and computer engineering. So they studied, both of them, they studied there. And then when it was my time to choose what to study on, of course, I could become like a doctor, a lawyer, but growing up with computers and seeing their excitement, I really wanted to continue and see what their path is like. So then I entered this school and I studied electrical and computer engineering. I had a great time there. I mean, of course, you you take so many classes and you can specialize in so many things. But the thing that I always remember is that I used to take some classes that were heavy on programming, and I would be like one of the few girls to take it. But that wouldn't scare me because I grew up with two older brothers, and I actually liked the feeling of being in front of a screen and like seeing this black screen with the code. And actually I was feeling like a hacker, you know, like, oh, I'm writing this code and I can do all these things coding, and I really liked that. So I ended up choosing classes that and courses that were more programming heavy. And yeah, so I ended up specializing in operating systems, which is the software that runs in our computers right now. And it requires a lot of programming, but still it's very fascinating to be able to build this kind of software. So then towards the end of my undergraduate diploma, I had to do an undergraduate thesis. So more like a semester where you do research on a topic. So there I went into this research lab in my school, and I saw I had contact with PhD students and other like professors and researchers. So this is where I really liked this whole research environment and the collaboration, discussing and exchanging ideas and building stuff. Sometimes it fails, but then you fix it and it works. So I really liked this environment, mostly from the collaborative aspect, that I could get to work with really cool people and I could learn a lot of stuff. So then I knew that I wanted to do a PhD, mostly because I knew that I was not ready to work. Like I was like, I want to learn more. I want to be a student for longer, something like that. So I was not ready to go and have a regular job yet. So then it was time to decide, okay, where do I want to do my PhD? Of course, again, I got influenced by my two older brothers that had gone to the United States to do a PhD. So when you have two older brothers that are in the United States, I mean, I used to travel and visit them. So I was just fascinated by the US, and it was just like given that I would apply to some US schools. And the good thing with a PhD in general, something that most people don't know, or it's not applicable to most places, is that you're actually getting paid to do a PhD. So you're a junior researcher, and in most places you will be getting paid to do that, either from your advisor or from an external scholarship. For most of the places you're getting paid. So this was an opportunity for me to still be a student, to go to the United States and be paid to go there and be able to support myself. I mean, of course, you don't make a living out of it, but you can support yourself. So there I spent 6 years in the PhD program, because it was kind of a combination of master's and PhD. So it typically takes a little bit longer in the US. And yeah, those 6 years were like a roller coaster. I learned a lot. I definitely had some struggles, and we're gonna talk about those later. But I was able to finish it. Of course, going back for the ceremony, the graduation was like, I think, the happiest day of my life so far. Like wearing the gown and walking on the stage, like to receive your diploma. That was my highlight. And then briefly deciding upon whether to continue to academia versus industry. There, I didn't have an example to follow. So my brothers are both in industry. So I could see what their life is like. And I actually have done some internships in some companies in the US. So I had experienced firsthand how it is to work in industry, and it's perfectly fine, very good environment. But what I didn't like is that somebody would have to tell me exactly what to do. So I just wanted the freedom of deciding what I want to work on, what I want to research, like come up with crazy ideas and see if they're gonna work without having a project or like millions of dollars worth of stake. So that's where that was one reason why I choose academia. And of course, I had a very strong female role model. So my PhD advisor was a woman, a very strong role model in my life. And we had a very good relationship. I would admire her in so many things. And she really supported me during that phase. And with her support, with my family's support, I choose to go to the academic route, and I was very, very lucky to get a position at IMDEA Software as a professor. So I only recently started, but I'm very excited to be in the academic space and continue grow. So that is my story. Thank you. And Niki, perfect timing. We can move on with you so you can share your story so far.
Hello. Yeah, sorry, I was late. I was giving a talk. I thought I would be later than the storytelling. My story. So I did my undergraduate, I think, at the same university as Thaleia in Greece, and I lost that story of Thaleia. But I think I don't know. Like for some reason. This university is generating PhD students and sends them to the US. So for me, it was like more peer pressure. All of my friends were applying to go to the US for a PhD. So I said, why not? And then I got admitted, I think, at 2 schools. One of them was San Diego. So I visited and I said yes, because it's a very nice place. And I mean, yeah, so I never had, like, it was never my dream to like do academia or to do research. So, but it just like everything went smooth. It was more or less. So I applied in San Diego. I like it. I stayed there for 5 years, 5 and something. And then, so I'm working on program verification with functional programming and Haskell specifically. And so I really liked what I was doing. And then I got an offer for a postdoc at Maryland. And because I really liked what I was doing, I wanted to continue. So I went there. And yeah, for me, like this postdoc at Maryland was the point that I said, I need to go back to Europe now. And happily, I applied to IMDEA, I got in, and I have been here like for 3 years. And that is my story.
Great. Thank you so much. So with that, we complete the round of introductions, and hopefully everybody got a sense of what we're doing and our journey. So I will continue with some more specific questions. And of course, if anybody else has other questions, feel free to raise your hand, or if you're in the Zoom, type in the box or raise your hand in the Zoom. So I just want to ask about what excites you about research? What is the thing that you really like about research? And then moving on, how can somebody get involved in research if they're in, let's say, high school or university? How can they get these opportunities that we had, for example? So if anybody wants to answer.
I can. I think what is really exciting about research is at least the idea that you work on open problems, right? You think that really there is no solution to a problem that really exists. And in my case, I work on more practical things. I'm more on software testing and analysis. And so I know that a lot of the problems I deal with are also very important for industry. So somehow the idea that I need to think of something that is really a problem, even in practice, for even very important companies, is something that excites me. And as soon as you find even a tiny little idea that improves even a little bit the state of the art, I mean, you really feel like you have an impact. So I think this is really what is exciting for main research.
Yeah, I would also say that it's a bit the same, but sometimes we deal with very difficult problems, and my director of my PhD would tell me, okay, when you have a very difficult problem, even a small step, it's very important. It's a big thing, because yeah, we deal with difficult problems sometimes. In industry, they have to do things quicker, they have to sell things, and in research, we have the time to really think about these difficult problems. And maybe we don't have there is not always the best solution. There is always drawbacks and a balance between, some things like, for example, when I have been working on analyzing programs, we say, okay, there is a way to analyze if your program is correct. And that's like wonderful, but that's very difficult and it takes a lot of time. So people are not willing to do that. They just want to write programs and okay, they seem to work fine. We are not going to do much more work than that, especially when we are talking about programs that are not life threatening and so on. So as Thaleia was saying, we have and also open problems. We have freedom. We can think, okay, how in a creative way, how can I solve this? So it's exciting. I'm excited about that. Sometimes, of course, there are dark moments when you think, but is this really useful what I'm doing if no one is going to use it? But still, you never know what's going to happen in the future. Sometimes things that are difficult to do today become easier in the future. And they are difficult problems and they do exist. So sometimes the solution you find is not the best or whatever, but you are working with very difficult problems. That's one thing, open problems and freedom compared to industry. So that's very nice. And the other question we were asking about how to, if someone was to start doing research. So my advice is that if you are starting at a university, go to the departments. Try to talk to some of the lecturers there. Maybe Silvia can tell more about from her experience. But I think to try to talk, if you see some of your lecturers that you think, okay, this person seems excited about what he or she is doing, I want to talk to him and tell him, okay, I want to learn about this. I think that's a possible good way at university to start thinking or working on research. I don't know about people who are at high school. I think some people who are listening to us are at high school. I'm not sure. I guess also talking to the lecturers, or sorry, to the teachers at the high school and ask them if they do some research and trying to talk to them about that, maybe. Yeah. I don't know if anyone wants to add more.
Yeah, when I was talking before, yeah, that's precisely what I did, because well, when I was in the university, I had this super ambition in which I wanted to challenge myself in an academia point of view. So, but I didn't have a clue about what kind of things are done there. So I started, yeah, with those teachers in which I had better feeling. They had me teaching super amazing subjects and so on. But then I said, okay, I can start looking on their websites or looking what are they doing. And I started to talk even with teachers that I haven't met in my full way there. So yeah, I got to know super amazing stuff like Patton, which is working with some bio things in which I didn't know that they were doing there, because everything seemed really into the computer itself. So yeah, talk to everybody, because yeah, when you are working on something, it's suddenly whatever any person comes and asks you, what are you doing? Why do you like it? It's like, oh my God, somebody's interested in this, really? So yeah, it's good. Don't have any doubt about asking somebody about what's doing.
I would just add to this, if you're in an undergraduate program or a master's program and they have an option for a thesis, that's an excellent opportunity to do that. And then you get matched with a professor and you can work with them very closely. So that's definitely one way to do it. Of course, and that usually happens toward when you're more senior in your undergraduate program, typically, because then you also have the knowledge to you first need to learn the basics. You need to learn all the necessary courses so that you have the skills and the knowledge to be able to think more openly and do research, as we say. And then if you get to the point that you can work with a professor, or of course research institutes like IMDEA, they always have open positions for internships for 3-6 months, and that's also an excellent opportunity. And during those times, if you work with your professor and you can ask them, hey, can I go to a conference? That's an excellent opportunity to see what the community now is working on your research area, and you get to interact with other students. Even if you're very junior, it doesn't matter, then you get to see what other people are working on and talk to other students. There are conferences that have programs specifically for undergraduates at the college level, or even, I don't know if it's for high school too, but there's the bigger the conference, the more such opportunities they will have for that. So these are some other ideas too. Anything else? All right. Any question from the audience? All right. Okay. So
there's a question here.
Yeah, great.
Thank you all for sharing your stories. I wanted to ask, for those of you who teach, I don't know if you also are teaching currently, if you have realized a changing trend in the way like women are interested in computer science or like this kind of topics, because I guess when you were studying, some of you commented that you had like you felt the contrast with maybe how boys were more familiar with computers in some cases, or you were probably like a minority in your class where most of the class would be boys. So maybe now when you look at people who are studying currently, you see that this is changing and there are more women that are interested in this topic.
Okay. So when I was studying, that was many years ago, I studied down there at the Polytechnic of Madrid. There were something like 30% or even 35% of women compared to men. So we were a minority, but unfortunately it has gone much worse. So now there's like 15%, 10-15%. So that's terrible. And I have been involved in some groups of why is this happening, and well, we don't really know. I mean, one thing is, okay, maybe there is this these stereotypes, Big Bang Theory, whatever. There is always male programmers, whatever. There is also a change in the name, something that Alessandra was mentioning. When I studied, it was called Licenciatura in Computer Science, and then they changed the name to engineering. And actually, they have done some experiments. I heard from someone in I think it was in Alicante or someone, where they started with this degree in data science or whatever, and suddenly much more women. Okay, so when the word engineering is there, many people feel like, oh, this is not for me. Huh? So sometimes the name of the course makes a difference. We also teach here at the university a course on computer science and business and administration. We have a lot of women. I mean, a lot compared to the ordinary degree in computer science. We have more women, and also in the data science degree that we have just started. So the numbers have decreased, unfortunately, and there are a lot of initiatives, and we'll see. And our role, I think, is to try to encourage people to say, okay, this is not only for men, this is for everyone. I mean, computer science covers a lot of different subjects. I mean, a lot of different applications, areas, whatever. And it's unfortunate in a sense if there are too many men, because then it's going to be very biased. And we want computer science for all, and it's affecting all everything in our world today. So of course we want to be there as women, right? So we'll see. So that regarding the numbers. Regarding the types of students, so I teach in first year programming, and I see it's really big differences. So there are people who have done a lot of programming, and there are people who have never ever touched a computer, which is amazing nowadays, right? And they are supposed to study some programming in high school. But I get people who I ask and they tell me, okay, so what we did in the programming course at high school, the supposedly programming course at high school, was to use Photoshop, right? So it's amazing because I start from zero, and in my classroom I have, and that doesn't mean, I mean, I have female students who have done programming and they like it, and I have male students who have never touched a computer. So I have all kinds. It's I don't see a big difference. But okay, in the double degree with computer science and business and administration, there are less people who have done programming, because it's people who maybe are more into the business administration part, but they think, okay, if I do this double degree with computer science, it's going to look much better. But they're not so much into programming. At the end, they are very good students because we have a very high, they need a high mark to come into that course, because there are a few places. And the amazing thing is that they all learn how to program. So because they are clever people, hardworking, and they learn. You tell them, okay, do this, and they do it. Okay, so they do learn, because programming is not difficult, by the way, at all. Everyone can learn. That's my. Everyone can learn programming, at least basics. Otherwise, I mean, you can like it or not. But you may like it or not. But learning, I think, is not that difficult. I think. So I see all kinds of things. I see female students who have done a lot of programming and they love programming and they are amazing. Female students who have done nothing programming, and the same with males. So no, I cannot really tell. I mean, there are of course more men in this classroom than female students. So just by statistics, there are more who have done some programming. But yeah, that's my experience.
If nobody else wants to add something, I can add from the perspective of maybe what I've seen in the US. I do want to believe that things have improved depending on, I don't know if it's the country or the school, but for example, one day I walked into an undergraduate class in my university in the US, Georgia Tech, and it's a programming class at the undergraduate level that everybody has to take, no matter what school they're in, because there's some classes that everybody has to take. So, and it's all engineering. Maybe it's computer engineering, mechanical, civil. So everybody has to take programming. And in that class, I did see 50-50, and I was very, very surprised. 50% girls, 50% boys, 18-year-old. So that was very pleasant to me. And what but of course, in my school in Greece, I believe when I was there, I would say 30% women, 70% boys, and that percentage really drops when the courses would become more programming heavy. So we still have a lot of work to do there. But what I've seen throughout these years is a drastic change of more organizations, more teams that are centered on females and women, supporting women, or there are these big research alliances like ACM, IEEE. They now have subgroups just focused on women, and they do activities. Maybe they do some coding workshops or mentoring sessions, and that has drastically improved. So, and this is one reason we're doing this event too. Like this event maybe 10 years ago wouldn't have happened, So there is hope in that sense. Given that more activities come up focused on females, then we hope to increase the numbers too. But there's so many other factors that go into, like stereotypes, depending on the country, depending the family you come from. So these are much, much harder to change. Yeah. All right. Thanks for the question. It's very important. And yeah, maybe the next question could be, given our maybe focusing on the PhD and like this whole research experience, sometimes things work, sometimes things don't work. Maybe you write a paper, it takes some time to get published. So I would like each of us to say what is the happiest moment you remember? What is maybe the one very challenging time you faced throughout your research career? And how do you deal with these ups and downs? Yeah. Yeah, thanks, Alessandra.
Okay, maybe I can start because I already mentioned something when I was introducing myself. And so as Silvia was saying, I mean, about the ups and downs, I do remember when I started the PhD, I was trusting my PhD advisor 100%. And when we started working on this research project, I've been working on this for bachelor, master thesis, and the first year of my PhD. So I invested quite a lot of time in this. I gave for granted that this would have made really an impact. So as we already said, when you start a PhD, you have this idea that you're really going to change the world. And since I was trusting him so much, when he thought that the work was ready to start preparing a paper and submit it, I gave for granted that it would have been accepted and it would have been like the best paper out there. And obviously, it was rejected, and very badly. So we got horrible reviews. So for the ones of you who don't know, so the research evaluation process is that you work on something, you write a paper, and then you send it to a committee of experts in that field who basically evaluate whether the work is worth it or not to be presented in an international venue. And again, at the beginning, I gave for granted that it would have been accepted because I trusted my PhD advisor so much. And when we got the rejection, it was like horrible because I felt like, okay, 1.5 years of my life wasted on this project. But then he told me, no, don't worry. We just need to arrange a few things and it will get accepted next time. So then I got convinced. I went back to work on it. We submitted again to another conference. And again, it got a major reject. And at that point, I was like, I don't want to work on this anymore. I don't believe in this topic anymore. Mm-hmm. And so I found myself 1 year after the PhD when I basically didn't really know what to do. And I knew that I wanted to change the topic of my PhD because I didn't believe in what I had been doing until that moment anymore. And I remember I went to a summer school with other PhD students, and I was scared of being asked the question, "What do you work on?" Because I really didn't know. So I could tell about what I had been working on, but I knew that I didn't want to work on it for the rest of my PhD. And so that was definitely the toughest moment for me, because it was really a moment where I had to take the decision of either dropping out of the PhD or just be strong enough, start again from scratch, and hope that I had better luck on another topic. So luckily, I did the PhD in Switzerland back then, so there was a little bit more flexibility in terms of how long I could work on my PhD. So basically, I decided to go for the second path. That is, okay, let's start something new. And with that topic, I was actually very lucky because it was really an open problem. I could produce something interesting that was accepted by the community. So in the end, it was a happy story. And I think that the happiest moment, and then I'll let the others talk, was when I was in Germany, and I was working on this project on analyzing mobile applications. And again, after quite a lot of time, we managed to get a good work out of it that got accepted into the top conference in my field. And a few months after, so me and the professor I was working with received an email from one guy in Google saying, "Oh, I am the head of the security engineering team doing research at Google in Mountain View, and we are interested in this project. So why don't you and maybe a couple of other students working on this come here so that we can actually try to implement what you have been doing for research in practice on the Google Play Store in Google." And that was really the moment when I felt, oh my God, so something that was really like a research project can actually be applied in practice and can be of interest for industry. That was really the happiest moment for me.
Great to hear. That's awesome.
So can I go for?
Yeah, of course.
I mean, okay, so usually the lowest moment has to do with paper rejections, and it is interesting because like paper rejections definitely part of your everyday academic life, and I think it's very important that like if you decide to be an academic, you have to take it like very light. So it doesn't mean anything. It means that some people in your community didn't like your work, but they didn't know, you didn't explain it well. And so I think like I got this from my supervisor. Like we were, generally my PhD was very smooth because me and my supervisor were a very good match. This doesn't mean that I am good or he's good. Like he had other like students he was supervising that didn't like him, but like our personalities matched somehow. And so on paper rejections that I got so many, I don't have this lowest moment because like I remember like when we submitted the first paper, my supervisor said like, this is amazing work. Do not get affected by the reviews, because he knew that I'm going to get bad reviews. And what is more interesting is that when we got these bad reviews, he would come to my office and like start shouting and like saying, oh, like this third reviewer doesn't know what he's doing. Like it was randomly generated text. So my role, like I didn't have time to go down. I was like, no, Ranzi, it's like they're humans, don't worry, we will get accepted. So it's like, it is this like different in psychology that if you know you have somebody with you, it's very important to give you up and like you realize that, okay, it's like a bad review, we are going to fix it. Yeah, so if like you don't have this with your supervisor, I think it's very good to have somebody to tell you that, even if this somebody is yourself and you have to go in the mirror and do it. And like maybe like one of my best moments again, I was super lucky to have this mental support by my supervisor on the research level. So, and I think like my best moment is I was in a meeting with him and I was showing something and his response was like, what have I done? Like that he made this. And we submitted this, and I think we like this work that maybe was like the best work that we have done, like got rejected infinite amount of times, obviously. But yeah, like it was important that I knew it was good work just because like I had somebody that I trusted for good or bad reasons. We'll never learn that like he was there and like we were a team against the bad reviewers. And like on this revision, I want to note that like now I am in this, like as a minority, I am in every possible committee that exists, in every program committee. Maybe we can discuss this later. And I have seen like from the side, how papers gets rejected, accepted, how you have like 2 days to review 5 papers. So like you don't give them the credit. So yeah, like I think it is very important to understand that peer reviewing is what we have, but it has problems. So you should not take the rejections too bad.
Yeah, thank you. And building on this, I think it highlights your story, and kind of my story highlights that when you go into a PhD that's going to last a couple of years, it's very important to choose your advisor instead of choosing like maybe other things. So who you work with for a couple of years is quite important. It's a
quite
major
luck.
factor.
You cannot know.
Yeah,
and,
yeah,
and
yeah.
as I said, like it's not two good people are a good match. It has to be like a match.
Personality, yeah.
So it is quite random.
Yeah.
I think I don't know how to like. Okay, there are some filters, but I don't know if you can exactly say how to choose. But it is important.
I was
trust and
I was going to say that I mean I had some disagreements with my supervisor. So in my case, so for example, towards the end, I really wanted to finish, and he was like, "Oh, but why don't you do this and why don't you do that?" And I'm like, "But come on, I have to finish now. I have been working on this for whatever, almost 3 years. I have already been working on this 2 years in Sweden. I want to finish." So we did have some disagreements like that, where I wanted to finish and he wanted me to do more. So yeah, and we had kind of like, okay, this is it. I'm doing this and I'm finishing, and he accepted it. But we did have some disagreements. So in my case, at least, it wasn't always everything smoothly. And unfortunately, I also know cases of people who have really big problems with their supervisors, and even people who don't finish. I don't want to scare you with this, but I'm just trying to explain that, well, we are people and social interactions, and with your supervisor you spend a lot of time, and yeah, it's sometimes bad things happen, or bad, you always learn in the process and whatever. I don't know, I just wanted to mention that it's not always wonderful in the, of course. And if I can continue. So that was for me the sort of a hard moment. I mean, of course, with rejections, but that was a hard moment for me, for example. And with regards to best moment or happiest moment, for me, my time in working at Ericsson in Sweden in this research lab was wonderful. I mean, that period of time, it was sort of the best of my research career so far. In the sense, I mean, I'm very happy what I'm doing now, but that was like the start of a new world, something completely new for me, which I had not expected, and I was like, oh, this is wonderful. So I really remember those 2 years, well, almost 2 years, as a very good time. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, and I will also add my happiest time, just so that it's more optimistic. That my happiest time, it was a phase where I had some papers accepted, so then I could go to conferences, and then it was like a period of 6 months that I would go. My advisor actually gave me the money to go to like 2 or 3 conferences, and I would travel a lot. And a highlight was that I got to travel to Brazil for a conference, like everything paid. So that was definitely the highlight. This is your peak, where your work is going well, you get to go to do all this traveling and meet people and meet friends, and that was I wish the PhD was like that all the time. Yeah, but even through those difficulties, that's where you learn so many things, and you build yourself, and you become much stronger, of course. So maybe, do we have other questions from the audience? Any other topics you would like to talk about? Else I can ask a few more questions and we can wrap it up. Okay. I don't see, but okay. So let's do another round where everybody shares maybe some of the lessons that you learned throughout your academic journey. And what would you say to your younger self? Like, what advice would you give to either high school students or university graduate level students through your lessons learned? Yeah. So yeah, maybe everybody can answer this. Silvia, do you want to go first now that the camera is pointing at you?
Well, I'm still learning a lot because I'm still a student. So for me, the most important thing is maybe let go. So I'm a kind of person that tries to control everything and planning everything. And well, if you're in a research, you can't do that because you don't know where you're gonna end up. Like you start with a lead of something, but maybe in the end it wasn't that good idea, but you end up looking into another thing and you go for that. So if you look the first idea and you see your last paper that you wrote, it's not really similar, but you can see the whole process and let's go see where you're gonna end up, not trying to control everything because it's impossible. Maybe that's my most important lesson.
Yeah, thank you, super important. Thanks. Clara, do you want to go next, or Alessandra? Yeah.
Okay. So, what lessons have I learned? Yeah. I don't know. So, on the one hand, there's something very concrete, which is to be concrete, to be precise, and that's something which I learned. And I mean, in the process that I explained at the beginning, how I got into research and everything like that, it was very important the encourage I got because from being not thinking I can do this is for people with very good grades, I don't have good grades, I'm a very average student, maybe average, to actually find people who actually appreciate what you do and say, no, you're very good, you do this very well, and whatever. I mean, that to build that kind of confidence is something which I learned on this path. And thanks to these people who were, like Thomas Hart, for instance. So I'm sorry, I'm struggling with my with this. Okay, so that's one thing, to build that kind of self-confidence, to learn to be precise. And what I would tell to my younger self is to try to take it more easy, because I was also very nervous and what's going to happen next. Of course, at that time you have a lot of uncertainty, like what's going to happen after the PhD. Am I going to finish my PhD? Am I going to be successful? and whatever. And of course, now seeing it from where I am now, which I am very kind of relaxed because I already got my position. I can do more or less what I like. I love teaching, I love researching, and there is a lot of bureaucracy which I like a bit less. But so I think those things.
Great, thank you. Alessandra?
Okay, so for me, the most important thing that I heard that I had to learn was about being patient. So when I started, I thought, well, you work on something and then you immediately get the results. And research is something that immediately teaches you that you need to be patient, because you may have to work on something for years before seeing the results. And sometimes before getting to something that really works, you need to take a lot of wrong paths. So this is something that I didn't know at the beginning, and it also made me very nervous. So I thought that everything was like a straight path, and it's almost never the case. And regarding what I would tell to my younger self, so probably I would say explore a little bit more, do more internships, do more research visits in other groups in other countries, because it's something that really teaches you a lot. While at the beginning, I started in Italy, and then I moved to Switzerland, but still working with the same professor, and kind of always worked with the same person until the end of my PhD, with only one exception of a short research internship in another group. but somehow I felt like I should have done way more. So for instance, in the US programs, they kind of force students, PhD students, to have internships every year, and or it's something that is way more common, and it's instead something that I didn't do until the end of my PhD, and I feel that this was wrong. So this is what I would tell my younger self: go out and explore, because the younger you are, the easier it is to travel, and the more exciting it is. So this is definitely the time to do it.
Yeah, thank you. Niki?
Yeah, so I guess what I would tell to myself that it took me a lot of time to realize is to have confidence. And the example is like when I was first giving talks, when I was presenting a paper, I had like all the talk, like I have learned it by heart. I knew the slide transition, I knew everything. And I was very scared about the questions. And the moment I actually started enjoying giving talks was when I realized that, okay, like I am an expert in what I'm saying. So no matter like at what stage you are, if you are presenting the paper and you know what is in the paper, you are the expert. So it does, like, I mean, people will ask questions either because they really have questions or because they want to show off, but that's a different story. And it's like you are the expert in what you're doing and you need to be confident to present and actually enjoying sharing this. So this is something that it took me a lot to realize, and it totally changes the way that I talk about my research. And so something else that I would advise in general, but because of my personality, I had this, I guess from the beginning, is that you need at least mentally to have a backup plan. And like what I mean by this, like if you're a woman who knows how to program, you can actually get a job like very easily. And like, yeah, what I say to myself when I go low is the only reason that I stay in academia is because I really like staying in academia. And this like gives me a lot of flexibility that, okay, if things go wrong, I can always escape. And I don't really think I plan to escape, but it's very helpful to boost me. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. It's super important. And just touching on the confidence, it's, I mean, everybody struggles with that. Some people are inherently more confident than others, but especially, I've just had these questions in a lot of like these kind of mentoring sessions. And sometimes, you know, some people can be louder than others in opinions, in how they talk, in how they ask questions, and that can intimidate us. But it's exactly what Niki says, that you know best your work, and whatever they are saying is just trying to show off. So just try to build this confidence and believe in yourself for sure. And with that, like that also goes to my lesson learned that I'm still learning actually, is to try to not compare myself always with other people, because especially in social media, you see, oh, this they got their paper accepted, they got this scholarship, they did this, they did that, and you immediately compare yourself and say, why didn't this happen to me? Or like, when will my time come to be as successful? I don't know. So learning to say to yourself that just do your work and your time will come, or your paper will get eventually accepted. Try to ease these thoughts, and especially with the social media, sometimes muting people also helps. Like if somebody posts all the time like about these things, like just mute them or unfollow them. You don't have to like see all these things. And yeah, so comparing yourself. And the other thing that really was very important to me, especially during the last part of like making a life decision, like, do I move somewhere to do something? Either that's a PhD, either that's a job. So, and then you get all these opinions from everywhere, and you don't really know what to do. So then trusting your gut and like believing that, okay, this is what I wanted, no matter what these other people are telling me to do, I know that this is what I want. And it's, you don't always know what you want, it takes time. For me, especially towards the end of my PhD, I was struggling with that a lot, that I didn't know what to do next. But then towards the end, it just became very clear, like with time, and then just not getting sidetracked by other opinions and trusting your gut was one other major lesson learned from me. So yeah, any other thoughts, questions, things you want to talk about from the audience in the room? Or if not, we can wrap this up. Sounds good. All right. Yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you to the panelists for taking their time and coming. Thank you to Blanca for her IT and social media support and getting this together, and to everybody who joined virtually and in person. I hope the in-person conversations continue a little bit more. I'm sad that I'm not there, but yeah, it was very nice to see everybody, and feel free to get in touch with us via email, find us on Google or whatnot, and yeah, happy Women's in Science Day. Have a nice day. Bye.
The same to you. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.